I was left for dead. That's how my journey in entrepreneurship started. I left the corporate world and my finance and MBA degrees behind me to share my story. Welcome to That Entrepreneur Show, where resilience meets hustle. Let's build and learn from our guest now.
I had to learn so much. I still do. I'm not even close. But it was great to pair that with writing this book that involved a lot of research and talking to.
We have an amazing guest here. I met him on Writing with Authors. He built a company. He moved on from the company. And now he's got his next company in the works, plus a brand new book. A lot of awesome stuff coming your way. John, welcome to That Entrepreneur Show.
Vincent, it's so nice to be here again.
I'm excited to have you back, everyone. He co-founded South Mountain Company back in 1973. Moved on from that. And again, now with his late in life partner, I love how he puts that, has his next venture, but there's a whole lot in between. We're going to catch up. So get ready here on That Entrepreneur Show. My name is Vincent A. Lancy, and I want to thank you for helping keep this show a top 2.5% global podcast. Today, we're brought to you by John Ford's Empathy Card Set and app. Head to empathyset.com to learn more. But John, I like to split this show up in phases. Before, right now, and later on, what originally led you to entrepreneurship?
It was quite a path. So, as back to the land hippies in the late 60s, I learned building by just keeping the rain out and fixing up derelict buildings in various rural places until it got to be a passion. And at one point, a guy who lived down the road from us in Vermont, we heard he wanted to build a house, and we went and saw him. We said, Harry, we hear you want to build a house. And he goes, can you guys build a house? And we said, yeah, we can. And he said, let's do it. And at the time, we lived in a house that had no electricity. And so that winter, we spent every evening on the floor surrounded by kerosene lamps and books spread out everywhere. And we were learning about what we had to do the next day. You know, joist that hooks into the rim, that. And so it was a crash course. We didn't know what we were doing, but we built this house. And not long after, somebody asked us to come to Martha's Vineyard to build a house. And we went, and business was about as antithetical to the way I thought as anything. But we thought we'd be on the vineyard for 6 months, pocket full of money, back to Vermont. And a year later, we were still wailing away on this house. The money was all gone, but somebody else asked us to build a house. So we stayed. And I had a friend, a mentor, 20 years older, who followed our work and actually loved the work. And at one point, he came to see a house and he said, man, the work is beautiful. Are you making any money? And I kind of chuckled and I said, pretty much losing money on everything we do. And he said, well, Abrams, you've got a unique idea here. Subsidized housing for the rich. And that bombshell, it was like a dagger to my heart. And at that moment, I decided, actually, I want to learn about business. I want to learn about how business can be a force for good. And I want to learn how to make subsidized housing for people that need it. So that launched me, and it became a passion that has lasted to this day.
I absolutely love it because that kind of led into the ability to create that magnificent best-selling book that we'll get into shortly. Walk us through the exit strategy, right? You built this company and then you eventually moved on from this company. When did you know it was time?
Well, that's a great question. So in 1987, the company was still young. There were maybe 12 people. And 2 people came to me who had been there from the beginning, good friends, and they said, we've been talking to each other. We don't want to take the usual route. We don't want to go out and make our own company. We want to stay here for our careers. And they said, but we need more of a stake. So at that point, I could have made them partners, but I thought if we do our job well, this will happen over and over again. And maybe we can imagine a structure that would welcome owners over time. And we were very lucky to run into, to stumble across the worker co-op. At the time, there were maybe a dozen in the U.S. And by the way, most of those still exist, and they've grown and expanded and thrived. So I sold the company to myself and two of my partners, and then it became a worker-owned co-op. More and more owners came on board over the years. The company grew, it flourished. And around 2015, when I was 60, we started talking about, well, what next? How does succession work? The ownership is solved, but the leadership succession is what we have to build. And we spent years working on that until I had a plan for December 2022 retirement date. And in the 3 years before that, we worked building capacity, building leadership. And about 6 months before that date, the leadership team of 5 and I looked at each other and went, oh my God, we are there. We've done it. We got 6 months to just polish the mirror. And at the end of 22, I was out. And an unbelievably well-aligned leadership team took over. Deirdre Bohan is now the CEO. It's a thrill to watch, Vincent. It's a thrill to watch them do so well. And I had things that I wanted to do that I was ready to do. And so that's what I do now is I guide companies who want to become worker co-ops. That is my work. And I write about it as well. So there was a moment, though, a hinge point in the company's history around 2004. I took 2 6-month sabbaticals to write a book called Companies We Keep that was published back then, and to see how the company could do without my leadership. And after the first 6 months, I came back. We had done a terrible planning job. The morale had tanked. And so we went, what did we do here? And how can we do it better? Let's spend the next 6 months planning it differently. At the end of that 6 months, I left again for 6 months and came back. And what we had put in place stuck and became true distributed leadership that has lasted to this day. So, second try, it worked.
Hey, but that's what entrepreneurship is all about, right, John? You don't always get it right the first time or the first 100 times. Eventually, you're going to go ahead and keep it together. Thank you for sharing all that. Let's dive more again into what you're doing right now. It was a natural transition for you because you've done it for so long. You became a master and expert at it. Did that inspire you to also write this book? You talk the 6 months apart?
It did. It had been welling up for a while. So the book in 2008 was long ago. But when I left South Mountain, my aspiration was to write another book. So the message of the book is that right now there are 3 million small businesses in the U.S. with founders over 55 and 32 million people that work in those companies who are dependent on them and care about them. And something is going to happen to every one of those companies in the next 15 years. Some of them will be handed down within the family. Some might be sold to a key employee or two, but that doesn't often happen. And many of them will just unceremoniously close the doors. Others are going to be attractive to strategic buyers, private equity, and they may be moved out of the community. They may be carved up for parts. They might lose the heart and soul that somebody spent 30 years making. And many of these founders would like to keep the purpose and the mission intact. Their bankers, their business brokers, their attorneys, their financial planners, their accountants, most of them have no idea about the employee ownership options available to them. So that's the purpose of this book, is to speak to small business owners who are figuring out their succession plans and expose them to employee ownership options.
I absolutely love that. Now, if everybody listening on, some people may not have heard of that before. What is that?
Employee ownership. So that is when a founder sells the company to the employees, the longtime employees, and either becomes one of those owners or retires at that point. But basically, it's a way of the founder getting rewarded for what they have put into the company and the employees sharing the wealth that's been created.
I think that's very, very important for people to learn all of these topics. So you're just such an expert at. And sorry I wasn't clear earlier. I was referring to that newer book because that's how we originally connected. Everyone, be sure to head to Writing with Authors. I'll be sure to put that here in the show description. John, as you move into this next chapter, you've accumulated a lot of expertise, a lot of lessons learned. What's one piece of advice you can offer a younger, early stage founder that you've learned over the years that would have helped you if you had known?
To learn from the people around you, to learn from the people that you hire. They're your innovators. They're the people that can help you grow what you want to grow.
I think that the team member, not employee, is a big mindset I've adapted that really helps everything because that collaboration, I want everyone's opinion to be heard and validated because not every idea is good on my end too, right? Not everything's going to be implemented, but I'd like people to have that community feel that they played a part and a role in this because they are in the trenches with me. They have their assignments, their expertise areas. Thank you for bringing that up.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm curious about this next question because I ask every entrepreneur that comes on this show this one. If you could choose any entrepreneur, dead or alive, to sit down with, pick their brain, who are you choosing? Someone you haven't met.
I'd like to sit down with Yvon Chouinard of Patagonia.
Let's talk about it.
Um, I think that he has done an absolutely extraordinary job, and that of all the companies that are truly socially responsible and care about people and the environment, nobody's done it like Patagonia. And the great illustration of this is that this company that has become very valuable recently sold itself to a perpetual purpose trust so that the planet is the only beneficiary of the wealth that Yvon Chouinard has left behind.
Where does that money trickle into if it's that designation? Where is the first stop on that
So the
beneficiary?
so the company has to be profitable, which it is, and everybody has to be paid and paid well with the best benefits in the world. And then what's left over, instead of going to a founder, goes to the trust. And the trust in perpetuity must spend that to aid the planet.
Well, we need more people like that. I think that's for sure right
We
now.
really do. And it's a model that's spreading. The perpetual purpose trust. Zingerman's in Ann Arbor, Michigan is another company that's done that, organically grown on the West Coast. So it's a model that's spreading as people look at their life's work and go, this has been purposeful in a way that I want to continue. And you can't assure that without creating some kind of trust that will last in perpetuity.
I love you sharing that. I've learned a lot today, everyone. This is the best part about being a host. I learn so many new things every time I sit down with someone. So thank you, John. But let's delve deeper. Where would this meeting go down if you could pick the location too?
Some beautiful place like Yosemite. Chenard's a climber, and it would be great to sit down in the shadow of El Capitan and talk about life and business.
That doesn't sound like a bad day, right? I think you'd walk away with quite a few things. What are some of your goals for 2025 come December 31st that you want to check off your list by the time that day comes this year?
So I want to have 4 co-op conversions under my belt by that date, Vincent. because there are a number of them lined up for 2026. And this is new work for me. It's been a tremendous learning experience. I started this having a great background in employee ownership and the worker co-op, but it was a lived background. And to be able to convey that to others and to guide others, I had to learn so much. I still do. I'm not even close. But it was great to pair that with writing this book that involved a lot of research and talking to dozens of people in this country and others that are involved in employee ownership and learning from them. So it's been like a fire hose these last 2 years. It'll be really nice to get a few of these under my belt.
Well, please do reach out to me 6 months after this goes live. I like to keep spreading the love because there's a lot of updates you're going to have by then, it sounds like. And it sounds like this is giving you a new purpose in life where you're a student of the game again. You're learning, you're getting the book work and the firsthand work.
I am such a student, and I've never been a great student, so I got to work at it.
Hey, well, I know you have the work ethic to accomplish all of these goals you have in front of you, John. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to join me now on a second podcast. Again, everyone, we have Writing with Authors. That link will be in the show description. My name is Vincent A. Lancy. And John, where can we find you online?
So, first of all, June 3rd, the new book, From Founder to Future, A Business Roadmap to Impact Longevity and Employee Ownership, will be published by Barrett Kohler. You can pre-order it now. And online, you can find me at abramsangel.com. And angel is spelled with 2 L's.
Thank you for sharing that, everyone. Be sure to head there right now. He's got a lot of exciting things on the rise, as you learned today. This show is That Entrepreneur Show. Please subscribe to stay current with our weekly shows with entrepreneurs. And thank you for keeping this show a top 2.5% global show. One more time for John Ford at empathyset.com. He has an empathy app in the App Store as well. And if you want to get your podcast started today, head to comingalivepodcastproduction.com. But with that, we're signing off today. John, it's great to see you again, and thanks for stopping by.
Vincent, thank you so much. I love what you do.
Back at you, John. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next week right here at That Entrepreneur Show.